Alright, so I apologize for the mess up on the first video. Let's go ahead and get over the second lesson for the day. And this is when we start talking about things that are a little more formal. So in that first video, we went over various words such as hola, ¿qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Bien. Muy bien. Gracias. And y tú. And each one of these respectively means hello, how are you? This one means how are you as well. Well. Very well. Thank you. And finally, and you. So we've learned all these words in the short confines of that first video. Now I want to quickly go over something a little more formal. Let's say you're talking to someone that deserves your respect. So we have three different types of people. Let's say you're talking to a man that is older than you and needs your respect. Okay, if you have a man that you're talking to that is older than you and deserves respect from you, you are going to call this person señor. Okay, so, for example, my name is Mr. L. So if you're wanting to tell me, hello, Mr. L, you would not just say, hola, El, because you're missing that Mr. You're missing that piece of formality that shows me the respect that I deserve. So if you're wanting to say hello, Mr. L, then you would need to add a word that means Mr. So we're going to say hola. And the word that fits right here is the word that I mentioned just earlier. Hola, señor L. Remember, because the way that you pronounce L in Spanish is L. Hola, señor L. We use this word señor for men who may be older, or maybe they are your boss if you have a job. Even if they're younger, they could still be a señor. Maybe you just respect them. Maybe they are a teacher. Maybe they are your doctor. Anyone that you need to respect and they're a man, you're going to call them señor. So repeat after me. Señor. Señor. And remember ends, because we've already gone over the alphabet in Spanish, because it has that little tilde over it, it makes a ñ sound. So it's señor. So it almost sounds like you're saying seen your. Señor. Next up, what do we say if you are talking to a woman that is older and also deserves your respect? In this case, we're going to call her señora. We're just going to add a little A at the end of the word señor that we had for men. So if we're wanting to say hello, Mrs. Let's see, what do we want to call her? Let's say Alvarez. So if we want to say hello, Mrs. Alvarez, then we would say Hola. I'm going to leave a blank there. Alvarez. And I'm sorry for my cat meowing in the background. There's a reason that I don't like him. He's annoying.
I was about to see what he wanted, but he's probably gonna go back to you, baby. He's coming.
Sorry for that. One of the hard difficulties of teaching from your house, I guess. So if we're wanting to say, hello, Mrs. Alvarez, then our word for Mrs., because it's someone that is older than us and deserves our respect, we are going to use the word señora. So we're going to say, hola, Señora Alvarez. So repeat after me. Hola, Señora Alvarez. Now let's just repeat this word. Señora. Señora. Sounds like Señora. Last one of the formalities. Let's say you're talking to a woman who might be younger. Not younger than you, but a little bit younger in general. Okay, but she still deserves your respect. So maybe she's a teacher, but she's a young teacher. She just started teaching. She's not quite as old as your parents, but you still need to respect her because she's your teacher. So this person is not going to be a señora, because a señora is normally older. This one's going to be a señorita. So we hear this one a lot on TV. Sorry for the dogs in the background. This is absolutely chaotic. Repeat after me. Señorita. Señorita. We see this one a lot on TV. A lot of times whenever someone's flirting on the TV, you would hear them say, "Hey, señorita," or something of that matter. We would see this one a lot. It's just talking about a younger person, normally very pretty. This can be seen as a sign of flirting, because a señora would normally be a married woman. So it's what we use in English, such as Mrs., someone that's married. A señorita is going to be more of an attractive, young, single person. So if you're married, we're going to use señora. If you're single, we're going to use señorita. If you're a man, whether you're single or married, you are always going to be señor. Okay, so we've got our three new words. Repeat after me. We have señor, which is a man, like I said, married, single, older, younger. Doesn't really matter as long as you respect them. We have, repeat after me, señora, which is a woman that is normally older and married. And then we have the last one, señorita, which would be a woman who is younger and normally single. And you're going to couple these up with last names or first names, but normally last names. So for example, my name is Caleb, and I'm just going to put L. You would not come up to me and say, Señor Caleb, because you don't normally use it with first names. You would come up and say, Señor L. Same thing with señora and señorita. It is mostly used with last names. Three more new terms that you need to get, and then we're done with today's lesson. we have our words for good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Now for good morning, I'm going to say it's anywhere from 8 a.m. to, let's say, about 11 a.m. So it's that short morning period whenever the sun's just coming up. It's still early in the morning. Let's think of the times that McDonald's would still be serving breakfast. Now, if it's in that time frame, then we are going to say Buenos dias. Repeat after me. Buenos dias. Buenos dias. Now, one very important thing to notice here, the last two letters on this word right here are OS. Okay, those have to be spelled correctly. It has to be Buenos dias. And we'll get into the reason why in a couple of weeks, but for now, you just need to remember that those two letters are an O and an S, because when we move on to good afternoon, it's going to change. For good afternoon, we're going to look at times between 11 a.m. to maybe about 4 p.m. So these are your lunch hours. Good afternoon is going to be when you would eat lunch, maybe the last couple of hours of school, first couple of hours when you get home, but not when the sun goes down. So for good afternoon, we're going to say buenas tardes. Repeat after me. Buenas tardes. Buenas tardes. And like I said, this OS from Buenos Dias has now changed to an AS for buenas. So this is why you have to remember those last two letters. Just like up here, I told you you have to remember that the last two letters are OS. Down here, you have to remember that for tardes, it has to be AS. If you see Dios at the end, it is OS. If you see tardes at the end, it is AS. Buenos dias. Buenas tardes. Last one, if we're talking about the evening, now we're talking anywhere from, let's say, 5 p.m. to midnight. These are the late night hours when you're going to bed, just like you would say good night to anyone. This is kind of the same thing. It's going to be similar to the Buenas tardes with that AS at the end. This one is going to be Buenas noches. Repeat after me. Buenas noches. Buenas noches. So now we have good morning, buenos dias, good afternoon, buenas tardes, and good evening, buenas noches. And in learning these three phrases, we have actually learned some extra words. We've learned how to say good, which is bueno. We've learned, let's just stick with that. We know that good means bueno because if we're trying to say good morning, afternoon, or evening, we're going to start it with buenos or buenas. Because we're trying to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So then with this word that means good, we have dias, which means day, but for this sentence, we're going to use it as morning. We have tardes, which means afternoon. And we have noches, which means night. So now let's go through and just quickly rehash all the words that we've learned today, because there have been quite a few. We've learned how to say hello. So we've learned hola. We've learned 2 ways to say how are you. We've learned ¿qué tal? And ¿cómo estás? We've learned how to say well, bien. We've learned how to say thank you, gracias. We've learned how to say and you, y tú. We've learned how to say Mr., Señor. We've learned how to say Mrs., Señora. We've learned how to say Miss, so an unmarried, attractive young woman. Señorita. We've learned how to say good morning. Buenos días. We've learned how to say good afternoon. Buenas tardes. And we've learned how to say good evening or good night. Buenas noches. So let's go through all of these really quickly. Just repeat after me. Hola. ¿Qué tal? ¿Cómo estás? Bien. Señorita. Buenas tardes. Gracias. ¿Y tú? Señor. Señora. Buenos días. Buenas noches. And with that, we have completed the first couple of pages of our textbook. We have now gone over how to say hello to someone. We've gone over how to say how are you. We've gone over how to respond to someone saying hello. We've gone over our terms of formality if you're talking to someone that you need to respect. And we've gone over how to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. If you have any questions whatsoever, let me know. But other than that, that calls it a day for these lectures.